Hi. Hi. My name is Paweł Pokrywka, and I love receiving spam. I love receiving spam. When the spam gets into my inbox, my heart beats faster, and I will tell you why in a moment. And at first, I would like to ask you something. Uh, when I would like you to when I will ask you to implement authentication in Rails, for example, how many of you would store user password in database in plain text? Yes, please raise your hands. Please raise your hands. Okay. Nobody. Okay. Okay. So I can tell you that you are fantastic. You are the best programmers in the world, and I'm honored to meet you. Because there was recent study among programmers, and the task which the task involves implementing authentication, simple authentication. It was paid task. It was the study was based on freelancers, and 40% of these participants implemented authentication using plain text passwords in database. When they were asked later to fix this, to make it more secure, many of them encrypted the password with base 64. Yeah. So, and imagine what will happen when database such protected database would leak to attacker. It means that this data can be used for criminal purposes, right? There will be account breaches, etc. And the attacker could send spam to these people in this database. So I have another question to you. How many of you have an online account somewhere? Please raise your hands. Okay, many people are lazy and don't want to raise hands. And please tell me how many of you, please raise your hands, have 50 or more online accounts, including newsletters, social media, everywhere where you put your email. Okay, thanks. Many people. So I can tell you now that each one who raised his hand, his data belongs to criminals because it leaked somehow. Why I am telling this? It is based on my research. For the last 12 years, I was doing some experiment. When I was registering for on some website, I provided unique, hard-to-guess email address. This email was unique to the website. And later, when I started receiving spam on this unique, hard-to-guess email, I was sure this email leaked from this website. And during this 12 years experiment, I registered for 800 sites, and 15 of them leaked. This includes LinkedIn, then the DNS, and one site which sells secure SSL certificates. Okay. So, if you do the math, you can compute that every 50 registrations is giving your email address and other data to spammers and other criminals. So so now you know. Have a nice day.
Let's start. You know, we were talking about many hard things today, so let's talk about something that's easy. But before that, let me remind two hard problems in computer science. There are cache invalidation, yeah, and naming things. Cache invalidation. Yeah, of course. Cache invalidation is really hard, and I don't want to talk about it, so I'll be talking about naming things, or rather about naming people, but it seems that sometimes it's quite easy, as some people says. There is one simple thing in computer science. So, have you ever thought, who of you are styled as senior developers or senior engineers? Or you were styled as once? Yeah? Do you think it means anything? What does it mean that someone is a senior developer? Is it that he's an Uber coder? What skills does he possess? Or maybe what responsibilities should he has? And who can name one a senior developer? And most of all, should you care about it? Most of you did not raise hand. I guess you don't care. What skills should have senior developer? Maybe it's an Uber coder. He is just a technological expert. You know, I used to be styled as senior Ruby developer. I'm really proud of it. It could be even worse. I could have been senior Rails developer, right? Or what could be worse? Senior React developer, senior Clojure script developer, right? I know one. But maybe it's not about only about technical part. Maybe it's about a language. Maybe it's more about it. Maybe about some computer science principles are required to be a senior. Maybe some domain knowledge, or maybe some soft skills. Maybe what happens if a senior Ruby developer, as I used to be, will transfer to a company that requires Python? What if a web developer transfers to a company that does game dev, or that does some control systems? Is he senior? What should he do there? And also, what should seniors do? What should be the responsibilities? Maybe they should just code the most important part of the systems. Maybe they should refactor all the mess that regular or mediocre developers did. Or maybe they should talk to the clients. Maybe they should yell at people. What should be the responsibilities? And next, who can name that someone is a senior? Maybe maybe his peers, because only a hacker could name someone a hacker. But who is the first senior developer in the world? And also, it's a problem that someone can be a local senior, the wisest person in a really mediocre company, yeah, with 6 months of experience. And if it's all about if someone can name himself a senior developer, what about juniors that with Kruger someone effect? That thinks that they think that they know everything. Or maybe what about people with imposter syndrome that will never call themselves senior developers, right? And they will never apply as senior developers. And if a HR department calls someone senior developers, they will find some strange metric to name someone a senior, right? Like this one. So, who can name someone a senior? And if it's all about years of experience. And next, should you care? Why should I talk about it? I care because I think naming things is important, and it's important in computer science. It's important in our industry. It says a lot about our industry that is really not very well defined, and also it says a lot about the company you are in, because if there is there anything after the senior, do they use the titles to give you impression that they care about your development? Maybe it's instead of giving you a raise, they will call you a senior. So it also tells a little bit about your own goals. If you want just to be a senior, what does it mean? What does it tell about you? It's a conference. Conferences are for presentations, not for presentations, but for talking. So let's talk. Go to me and talk if you care.
Hi. That's not surprisingly me. I was young and beautiful 2 years ago on Wrocław. I was talking about performance of distributed applications. I was talking that I told you, you may remember or not, that I can model your distributed application. I can describe what it does. I can even model whatever infrastructure is your application deployed to, even how this infrastructure is managed and what. And then I can show you, for example, that recent changes in the way the infrastructure is managed is not very good for performance of your application. Or I can show you that you should rescale your application because it will be good for your performance. Or you shouldn't rescale your application because you will just do a lot of work and gain nothing in terms of performance. So that's what I can do. Long story short, it is possible to predict performance of distributed application, performance changes of distributed applications without complex benchmarks, just by creating some models, performing simulation, and getting results. Okay? But that's what you can watch on YouTube from Wrocław RB 2017. So if you want, just watch it. So why am I here? What am I talking about? If you can see it, okay? It was quite well received presentation. It was always a very nice audience here. But one of questions that was asked after the presentation, it was asked in a very nice way. But nonetheless, it was this question. And the only answer I could give you then was, sorry, I did it, I implemented it, I can talk about it and I can use it, but I did it while I was still working on a university. So this code belonged to the university, to my employer, and I couldn't share it with you. So that's why I'm talking here now, 2 years later, and not so much money later. I can tell that I bought you a gift. It's already on GitHub. So if you want, see the code, but please don't be very critical. It was a trick-kitting to implement it. I know I tried to do it 3 or 4 times before I managed to do it. It was, to implement it, you know, Ruby was necessary. I know, I tried it in Java like 2 times. It's not possible. So please don't be very critical, but yes, I will be happy to hear your thoughts about it. It's of course a Ruby gem, so you can take it and install it. Here are the links. The first one is to the tool itself. It's quite extensive README there. Below the hood, there are Petri nets. So if someone wants to use Petri nets, for example, to model some business logic more complicated than what Andrzej showed yesterday, so the logic that can't be modeled using the finite automata, you can use Petri nets. So there's a tool for that, and you can also use it. It's also a Ruby gem. And if you want some support in whatever is related to these tools or to performance prediction, that's how you can reach me. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. I am Viktor Shepelev from Ukraine. I'm a speaker for the conference, so I'll have a big presentation on different topic tomorrow morning. So I'm mostly here to say you don't oversleep. I have a first presentation. Now let's talk about something. I do Ruby since like 15 years, maybe. It happened so that for like first 12 years of my Ruby career, I managed to avoid Rails completely. Yeah. So I am one of the guys who came to Ruby not because of Rails and not from PHP. It's like weird story. I was a C++ developer and really programming language geek, and I loved Ruby at once. So I managed to find different kind of works that allowed me to work with Ruby, but not with Rails, because I have my problems with Rails. I didn't know it. And I, even when I switched to Rails eventually and started to work on regular Rails code base, I still looked for something that will allow me to experiment with Ruby expressiveness to the new edges, to some new adventures. And at some point I came to presentation by Steven Wolfram of Wolfram Alpha, Wolfram Mathematica, about their Wolfram language, that it's absolutely awesome. It's proprietary thing that is mostly probably good for demos, but for demos it's absolutely awesome. It can do any kind of scientific stuff. And then I decided, yeah, Ruby can do it, and even more expressively. And then I learned the sad truth that the scene is already taken by Python, and everything that exists and is so awesome in Wolfram is created in Python in this or that form. But I didn't want to write Python, I wanted to write Ruby. So I started several open source projects. You can look at my GitHub, they're still there, and I still have some hopes for them, though not that high. But also I find out that some brave guys are doing Ruby for science. It was called Scientific Ruby. It is still called Scientific Ruby Communities. They're still brave. They still have some energy. And for 3 years, I was part of this community, hoping to bring together the scientific development, the expressiveness of Ruby, and maybe make some breakthrough to the absolutely different area. It was a very fun journey. We did several Google Summer of Code working with students, where I eventually learned that known to maybe many of us myth that, for example, Indian programmers have this or that flaws. It's completely not true. I worked with super bright Indian guys and was very happy to do that. But the sad story is it led to no end. Why is it so? It happens because I believe because of several things. Because of really large head start that Python had. Like currently, we have some tools in Ruby, but even when I worked in large companies that needed to make some data science on the platform, and all the code base was in Rails, and also there were 3 sad Pythonistas in the corner who said, no, we would not work with Ruby, we will do data science in Python, because data science is already taken by Python. And when something is done in this direction by mostly by students who came in summer and do something, it's ignored by the community, except for some part of the community that is in Japan, works only and communicates only in Japanese, and also ignores everything that English language part of the community does. And so we still have some hopes that some scientific Ruby, scientific applications for Ruby will exist, but
Hi again. I keeps to pretend to be those guy from the Frontend community, but indeed I am the Ruby backend developer, so I am going to share my thoughts about outdated browser detection. The issue are very, very familiar. There are many browsers for many platforms and has many versions, and some version of this browser supports some features and some not. Some browser gets to be outdated and some browser are invented very fastly and gets update very early. So dealing with all of this looks some kind be challenging. And you can say that detecting outdated browser is something about front end, and the people from front end should care about it. So if we see the statistics, most of the people use the modern browser, and the small part of the people use outdated browser. But the idea to support all the browser, to let all the user to use your application is very lovely in case when business has unlimited amount of money and can spend it for unlimited amount of developer resource. So most of you thinks that there is something about front end, and front end people should care about it. So I don't mind, and they don't mind, and they do it. People from front end has the npm package for simple configure the set of supported browser in such kind of the rules. Then these rules gets to be processed to the list of supporting browser. Because of this npm package is updated very often, it knows about all the versions of all the browsers for all platform, and it looks like it works. Also for Node.js there is another tool, another package which validates the provided HTTP, it validates the provided HTTP header user agent to match the supported browsers. And everything works great with the help of front-end tools until, so in case if the browser isn't supported, with help of front-end tools, we can show the message and ask user for browser updation. So everything works well until we face the browser that do not support the JavaScript, or the JavaScript is disabled. In this case, this problem goes to backend. And here is the port of the original npm package for Ruby. It do the same. It validates the user agent and find the matching of the supported browsers. In this way, we can do just the same, render the alert with the pure HTML, and it would be works with any browser. But the issue is how to manage this config and let it be used with front end and back end, and let it have the only one place. If we have the usual Rails project where front end and back end is lying on the same repository, it is easy. Just share the browser JSON files and everything works great. Use this file for front-end tools, use this file for backend to identify the browser is outdated. But if we have separated front-end, when front-end serves all the requests and lies in another repository, solving this problem becomes a little bit tricky. But here is the solution. Just do another HTTP request for every HTTP request. Looks very scary and unstable, but it works, and it is possible to cache the response and not to do HTTP request for every HTTP request. That is all. If you have any thoughts about it, just write it here. Thank you very much.
Okay. Hi. Sorry for those who were there last year and the year before, maybe. I'm just going to play music for 5 minutes with Ruby. It's an app that's called SonicPy. You can install it, and then there's a very nice tutorial inside if you want to learn how to play. It's easy to begin, and then it's like every musical instrument. You have to practice a little bit to get good at it. I'm not very good, but I want to share what it's a lot of fun to play with it. So let's go.